Hey, how you doing?
Hello and welcome to Zoosday Tuesday, where you get to be a part of our conversation about conservation. I'm Melissa, this year is Doris,
and I'm Ann. And if you want to join our conversation, you can add any of your thoughts, questions, comments, ideas to educationteam@pueblozoo.org.
Well, last week we were able to talk about the IUCN. We introduced it, and we met one of the endangered species here at the zoo, the red panda. So if you haven't seen that, you can go ahead and watch the last YouTube video we posted. But this week we're going to dive in a little bit deeper to that IUCN list and talk about a few of the other designations.
We're going to look at all 8 of our IUCN ratings. Elissa has done some research and I've done some research. So I'm going to start off at the left side of the scale with DD. DD stands for data deficient. And that's an animal that the IUCN just doesn't have enough information about. We do have an animal that's in a family of animals that is data deficient. So the Maconde squirrel galako is data deficient, which means they don't have enough information to say how that animal is doing. Galabo is another word for bush baby. And the galabos live in Africa, in the Congo and Gabon. Our bush baby lives in Islands of Life. And that is a data deficient species. The next on the list is least concern. An animal of least concern, and the initials for that one is LC, least concern. An animal that is least concern means they have information about that animal, and that animal is thriving. They pretty much don't have any threats, and so we don't have to worry about conservation efforts for that animal. A species that is listed as least concern is the red kangaroo, and we have red kangaroos over in our Australian area.
Which is good to know. I love the red kangaroo. And so the next one I did a little research on is called near threatened, or NT. So that is the precise reason that I have Doris out here today. He is a ball python from Africa, regions around Africa. And the ball python is actually listed as near threatened. So they are not quite too endangered or vulnerable. They are just entering the field of concern. Some things that they're facing is pet trade. So it's really important to make sure that if you want a pet, snakes can make good pets, but you just have to do your research really well so we're not contributing to the problems that ball pythons are facing.
From there, we go to VU. VU stands for vulnerable. One of the animals that lives here at the zoo that is in the vulnerable category are the toucans. Vulnerable actually means these are animals that are vulnerable to becoming endangered. So the toucans are hunted in their native Asia. Overhunting is contributing to population decreases. They have a population decrease of 30% or less. They also are experiencing habitat loss. So they're not endangered, but they are vulnerable to endanger.
So the next category after vulnerable is endangered, which is our, one good example is our red panda that we talked about last month. And then after endangered, the next category up is called critically endangered, denoted by CR. And we're going to talk a lot about critically endangered today. So I'll go ahead and skip over that one. And then after critically endangered, the next designation is extinct in the wild. So that means there's no more individuals that are naturally occurring in the wild. And one really good example of extinct in the wild is the Wyoming toads. They we don't have any here at the Pueblo Zoo, but at our neighboring zoo, the Cheyenne Mountain Zoo, they're actually doing research on the Wyoming toads and working to actively re-release them into the wild so that there can be a population that is living naturally. But right now, there are no Wyoming toads that are naturally living in the wild. That's just due to habitat loss, and also they're facing some fungus disease. So they are actively trying to recover those guys, but they are currently extinct in the wild.
So without zoos, maybe we wouldn't have any Wyoming toads.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
That's a really good service that zoos can provide. So after that, unfortunately, the saddest category of all is extinct, of course. And that means there are no more of that species in the world at all. Not in zoos, not in protected places, not in the wild. Extinct means there aren't any more. And it's interesting that it's hard to determine, are you gone? So an animal that I have been following with interest is the ivory-billed woodpecker. It's a really big woodpecker with a white bill. It's a very striking bird. And they used to live in the swamps of Louisiana, and those forests were cut down. So in 2021, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife proposed that the ivory-billed woodpecker be taken off the endangered species list because they said there aren't any more. I think it's time to say this animal is extinct. And there was such a response to that proposition. Birders from all over the world registered their dissatisfaction with that, and so much so that the U.S. Fish and Wildlife said, okay, you've presented evidence that says maybe there are still ivory-billed woodpeckers in the world. So that animal keeps teetering back and forth between endangered and extinct. And we hope, definitely we hope that it is not extinct. Because once we can find a breeding pair, then we can bring it back to, higher population levels, like we do with the Wyoming toad. Animals that can be bred and we can increase their population, get to not become extinct. So, should we go on and visit some critically endangered species?
Yeah, today our main focus is on the Cotton Top Tamarin. So we are going to go meet some Cotton Top Tamarins. We actually have 6 here at the zoo.
This is the Cotton Top Tamarin diet. They get a lot of fruits and veggies, which they don't like their veggies very much. They throw them on the ground, but they probably at least eat some. And then this is their biscuit that they get. It's called a New World Primate. It's a canned good. It's very nutritionally dense, and they love to eat it. So it's very good for them. We also give them worms, and they get gum arabic, which they love. They love their insects. Yeah.
And all together we
We
have
have 6.
6.
We have 4 females and 2 males. That's mama. And dad's usually by her, so that's dad. These are our Cotton Top Tamarins. They have left for now. Maybe I should have walked them on. They're a little bit nervous. We have 6 here. We have 4 females and 2 males. And they are a very cohesive family group. They love to be together. They're very social animals. And they are led by the mother. It's kind of, well, there's one breeding pair, I should say, in a group. So we have Geo and Kia. Those are our breeding couples. And then all of their kids that are here will help raise the young that come next, especially the females. However, Kia is implanted. She has birth control right now because we don't want her to breed more. They are still recommended for SSP, but we don't have the space here at Pueblo Zoo to house more of their kids. And we don't usually send off young until they're about 2 years old. So since we can't house more for 2 years, we're gonna have them stop making them.
I see.
Which is it's kind of great in a way to have, monkeys that are so good that we have to stop them from breeding. Especially important because cotton tops are critically endangered. They only currently have, in the wild, they only live in northern Colombia in a small forested rainforest region. And that's because of deforestation, They are being caught for the pet trade. You can see how small and cute they are, so people really want them. However, they are not great pets. As of course I will say as a zookeeper, they're not great pets, especially because they are social animals, so you can't just keep one. Keeping one is very mean. They're also very dirty. It looks clean in here right now because we just cleaned, but they poop everywhere. They like to scent mark with their urine, so they rub their urine everywhere. They're very loud. They're not right now, but they're squeaking. If they get scared, they have very loud alarm calls. And they are just little pickers, so I like to pick at things.
In the wild, do they live in family groups like this?
Yes, they do. They live in very large groups.
Oh.
Even bigger than this, because they will just, keep breeding because they have space to do so if they're able to keep breeding. And usually they give birth to twins. Our female has not had that luck. If she has two babies, usually only one survives. So they're even more prolific. That's more alarming.
Oh, that's alarming.
And they were also captured from the wild for research. Apparently these cotton tops can spontaneously develop colon cancer. So they were taken for research in the 60s and 70s, tens of thousands of them were just taken for human studies to see if we could get an answer to what causes colon cancer maybe. I don't know what research came of that, but I do know that their numbers are very low, and that is one of the reasons, because we took them. So even if we think it's justifiable, it's not sustainable.
Thank you so much, Kayla.
You're welcome.
It was really interesting to meet our little family of Cotton Top Tamarins. They are so cute.
Yes, they are super cute, and they are not the only critically endangered species located here at the Pueblo Zoo. In fact, we're in the Islands of Life building right now, standing right in front of one of the other critically endangered species. This is the Rodriguez Island fruit bat right behind us, but there are a few others in this building as well.
So this building is called Islands of Life. I think I've heard something about islands having species that are a little more vulnerable to extinction. Can you tell me about that?
Yeah, and that is super true because islands just have less space for the animals. So if you live on a specific island and you only get to live there and that area of space is being affected by different things, then you're more likely to be affected by those things because your space is so small.
Well, let's meet a few of our other critically endangered species that live here in the Islands of Life.
Sounds good.
Rodriguez fruit bats go back and forth between endangered and critically endangered. Since 2016, they have been listed as endangered because the global population is restricted to a single location, Rodriguez Island, and it has an extent of less than 200 square miles. The population undergoes extreme fluctuations due to severe tropical cyclones. This stunning starling qualifies as critically endangered because it has an extremely small range and a tiny population, which is still suffering from illegal poaching for the cage bird trade. Releases of captive bred birds from zoos all around the world have boosted the population, but it is uncertain how many of these have yet bred successfully in the wild. This cockatoo has suffered an extremely rapid population decline of more than 80% over 3 generations, owing to unsustainable trapping for the cage bird trade. This has been exacerbated by ongoing forest loss. It is so important for people to do their research and only buy pet birds from reputable breeders who do not take birds from the wild.
And so that's